Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're meeting Shayler, who's recovering from alcohol, marijuana, and mental health challenges, and is devoted to helping people as a peer support specialist. In the world of recovery, that makes Shayler a bit of a superstar, not only because he's a survivor, but because he puts his life and story out there for everyone to see and learn. Now, whether it's through his videos, his work with people as a mentor, he is making a difference. Let's meet Shayler. Shayler, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for having me. So I'm a peer support specialist, and how I was essentially led to this profession was back in 2013. I had what they would call a psychotic break, where I started believing things about myself and about the world that were based on delusions from a mental health standpoint. I was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I've been on a journey to get better, both mentally and physically, ever since that diagnosis. And a big part of that included getting sober and just trying to straighten out my life by making good choices and pushing forward every day.
Now, you started out, Iowa kid, just like any other kid,
Yep.
but you did start doing some things that might be, well, things you're struggling with recovery on at a pretty young age. When did things start for you?
So I think I started dealing with depression pretty early on in life due to my parents' divorce. And shortly after that, losing grandparents and just some bad things that had happened and kind of spiraled from there. Being from Parkersburg, another traumatic event that we all went through was the tornado of 2008. It was shortly after that event that I began drinking, and shortly after that, I began smoking marijuana as well. And that's really what my life revolved around in high school, was drinking and partying, and just really just trying to numb from those experiences that I had in the past.
Were there a lot of other kids doing the same thing out there?
Yeah, there was. And as more time went by, I think more kids kind of took that route, just trying to heal from those experiences that they went through. Um, yeah, there's quite a few kids that went down a similar route.
So now you're at a young age and this is happening, and at some point you think, well, you look towards adults, but adults probably had just as many problems with mental health and substance use disorder at the time too.
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody kind of, I mean, that was such a traumatic thing that happened to our town, and I think it affected everybody in a negative way. So trying to help one another just wasn't really working out because we were both, all of us were just going through a hard time. So yeah, it was hard for us to find any source of help or anything like that. So the community really banded together and tried to help one another the best that we could.
Now we know the numbers, generally speaking, are that what you say, what, 14 at the time,
15, 16.
15, 16.
Yep.
We know that most kids don't do drugs and alcohol, but a significant portion do. What starts happening to your school life and community life when you become part of the group that's doing the drugs and alcohol?
So I think for me, being in a community that focuses a lot on sport and athletic achievement, being somebody who didn't conform in a sense, I think kind of labeled an outcast, and kind of like I never felt like I belonged at the school system. At AP, I wanted to play sports and everything like that, but I just had such bad social anxiety that I just couldn't do it. And because of that, I just felt like an outcast throughout high school and hated going. It was everybody says high school is the best 4 years of their life, but for me, it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, and I think that when you say everybody, I think you probably represent a good portion of high school kids that have social anxiety and aren't necessarily comfortable dealing with a lot of people.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
now, how did you see? I mean, so you have family issues going on, you have social anxiety, you tend to be feeling down, and you start this self medicating thing. What's life and school like when you're a kid that age? What kind of stuff do you do? What do you reach out for? What kind of things happen to you?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it was just like I didn't want to go to school. I hated being there. I felt like I was constantly judged by everybody. And I think being somebody that, skateboarded and, drank and partied, like it was evident to me that people were judging me for the choices that I was making, and nobody really took the time to step back and look at, like, okay, well, why is he choosing to use these substances, and why is he choosing to take this route in life? And I think because nobody reached out, I just continued to feel as if I didn't belong. I didn't seem to fit in anywhere except my own, small group of friends. So yeah, so partying became a big part of that, and basically all I wanted to do in school was just escape.
Hmm. So you grew up in a small town, and all you really want to do is get away.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to a teacher once a few years ago, and he told me that it just seemed like I just wanted to be invisible, and that couldn't be any more true.
Well, it's a shame the teacher couldn't have noticed that and done something to help you at the time anyway, but
Yeah,
that's a tough ask. We're going
yeah.
to take a short break. Shayler, we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Shayler. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
that's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
While a lot is changing in our world, at MediaCom, our focus remains the same, making sure you have the fastest, most reliable connection possible. During this critical time, we know your needs are changing. You may be working or learning from home, relying on telemedicine, or finding new ways to keep everyone entertained. If you need more speed, call or go online, and MediaCom will double your speed immediately for as low as $10 more a month for 1 year.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Shayler, who in many ways grew up as a typical Iowa kid, but in other ways he faced challenges that many kids today may not survive. Now, Shayler, I pointed out at the end of the last segment that maybe it's too bad that teacher didn't check in with you earlier on this process, but it turns out he really did help you a lot. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started taking his class, and he was a psychology teacher at Appleton Parkersburg, and had been for a very long time, and he always had a big impact on kids. And the things that I learned in his class really started to turn the wheels a little bit in my head and get me to kind of figure out why I was making the choices I was making and why I saw myself in such a negative way. And one day in class, he interrupted the class and he's like, Shayler, I really have this fear about you. And in my mind, I was like, oh no, he's going to call me out for, drinking and smoking weed. And I was kind of freaking out about it a little bit. But he said, I'm afraid I'm the only teacher in the school who realizes how intelligent you are. And up until that point, I did not believe I was a smart person. Going through school, I never really applied myself. I got 4 grades. So at 17 years old, to have a teacher like that to point something positive out really began to change my life.
So you didn't, it's probably safe to say that that's a contributing factor to the things that lead to substance use is just not having a lot of positive reinforcement in life.
Right, 100%. For a long time, I really didn't feel like I had anybody in my corner. Like I had my family and my mom, my dad, but that was really it. And your parents are supposed to be in your corner, but for me, it just seemed like I had nobody else. So to have a teacher reach out and say something positive, it really got me to try to think about myself and my own self-talk and try to change it into a more positive direction.
Now, when you work with people now as a peer support specialist, what kind of people do you work with? How old are they, and what kind of situations are you dealing with them?
Yeah, so I work with adults, mainly men, just because I'm a male, so it's easier to relate to them and their struggles. I deal with all kinds of different people that have schizophrenia, people that have bipolar disorder, depression, autism. I deal with a lot of different people. And I think the one thing that people need the most is just a kind person in their corner, somebody that genuinely cares and pushes for them to be better.
Now, These adults you're working with, do they share some commonality in their experiences in high school like you did? Did they have similar experiences?
Yeah, a lot of the people that I work with were bullied in school. A lot of them went, used substances, and a lot of them are still in that situation today.
So, what would you say to a kid today? I mean, if you were dealing with somebody your age, a 15 or 16-year old, that's a pretty dangerous spot to be in for them. Hard to get out. You feel minimized. You don't feel loved and wanted. Um, is it the parents that need to step up some more? Do teachers need to get more engaged with people? Do friends in school notice kind of stuff like that? I mean, there are people at school that sort of could see you sort of dropping out and could have helped you. What do you think?
Right, right, right. I know from my experience when I was going through social anxiety, I had reached out to the counselor and also the family doctor. And both of them said the same thing. They just said, I'm just a shy kid and I'll grow out of it eventually. But it was so much worse than that. So I think when a kid speaks up about an issue that they're having, I think that it should really be taken seriously. Because in my situation, it wasn't taken seriously and I just continued to struggle.
Do you think it's safe to say that if a kid gives even a little hint of something, that it's probably a lot bigger than a parent or teacher might think it is?
100%. And I think with mental health, a lot of kids kind of joke about it today. I have a 16-year-old sister who's in high school now, and she deals with some of the same issues that I went through. So it's nice that she has somebody to relate to in her life, so she can make it through, these difficult times in her life. I hope I answered your question there. I'm not sure if I did.
No, that's all right. What were the kind of things that happened to you that really helped turn you around?
Yeah. Mainly just having caring people. And it wasn't like a lot of people in my corner, but it was enough. At 17 years old, I got a DUI and I wanted to play football that year. It was my senior year and I was going to try to play football because I really wanted to. And I got a DUI. And after that happened, not anybody on the team, tried to talk to me. None of the coaches tried to talk to me about it. It was just kind of like I was forgotten about. And that kind of like reinforced this idea that, I didn't belong there. But I had another teacher who is absolutely fantastic, and she still teaches today. She called me up to the school and we had a short conversation, and she was the first person that really asked me what I wanted to do with my life. I told her that I just wanted to help people, and she really encouraged me to take that route.
That's pretty cool. And in the context of that, you look in the mirror and you're like in a position where you need help, but yet you're still thinking about helping other people. When we take a short break now, we're going to come back. I'd like to talk about mental health and some of your thoughts about that. Stay tuned. We'll see you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What?
I can't drive.
Why? I'm high. Oh.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Shayler. A little bit about mental health, a couple of words that don't do justice to the magnitude of a mental health struggle. And we're talking about his life, chances, choices, substance use disorder, and the road to recovery. Shayler, tell us more about this, because you have a really cool video called Dear Marijuana, and I encourage people to listen to it. It's not real long. It's on YouTube. But man, it's powerful. And as a matter of fact, it was a person that out of the blue showed me that link to that video and watching it and made me want to get you on the show. Talk to us a little bit about that journey that you were on.
Yeah. So, like I said, after the tornado, and especially after Coach Thomas was killed, I began dabbling more in drugs and alcohol. Um, Marijuana became a vice for me, as did alcohol. Alcohol kind of helped me deal with the social anxiety, while marijuana just kind of the same thing, kind of helped me deal with social anxiety. Essentially, I was self-medicating, with these substances, and it wasn't. It was a little too late that I realized they were more detrimental to my mental health than they were actually helping me. And uh, essentially, smoking weed and drinking, you're just pouring gasoline on an open wound, and those flames just got higher and higher, and I couldn't seem to get myself to quit, no matter how bad I wanted to. I'm in my mind, I thought I was going to be a drinker forever. I thought I was going to smoke weed till the day I died. But after I got in trouble in 2013 and ran into all those mental health issues, it really made me decide to try to take my sobriety seriously. And it took a long time. I mean, this is a 9-year journey, and I've been sober now for 2.5 years from alcohol and a year and a half from marijuana. One of the things that really helped was writing that video that you're talking about that I put on YouTube, kind of fleshing out my thoughts about what it really was I felt about marijuana and how it had affected me in a negative way.
Yeah, we talk about self-medicating as it almost sounds like something positive, but you really found out that there's a real dark side to that. It wasn't positive at all.
Right, right. Yeah, it was really, really detrimental for my mental health. I mean, alcohol is a depressant. Everybody knows that, and marijuana is more of a downer as well. So for me, going through all these experiences and then witnessing the tornado and then coach passing, and then losing friends after that and family members and things like that, I just came to believe that the world was a horrible place filled with suffering and nothing else. And the alcohol and the marijuana just kind of kept me stuck in that belief that the world was a god awful place.
So now you're in a great space now, rebuilt your life, you're helping other people. But while you were going through these problems and Parkersburg was going through some of these problems, other people went sort of down that dark path that you went down. Did all of them get out of it, or is some of it just a real dead end? Not everybody break those bonds?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a habit that's hard to break. And the thing is, life is really difficult for everybody. It's full of immense suffering and just horrible things. So when people find themselves in a situation where they have to use drugs and alcohol to cope, the things don't get better until you quit. And everybody goes through those hard times. So when you're using drugs and alcohol, when hard times arise, you just seems to fall further and further into it, and a lot of people don't find their way out.
Most of the kids you knew that turned to marijuana or alcohol, did they, for the most part, have parents that were drinking or doing drugs, or not?
I don't think so. I mean, some of them I think came from families that probably drank a little bit, but I think most of the people that I know came from pretty stable households. I know it was different for me. My parents, drank a lot growing up, and I was always exposed to it. So I think I probably had a predisposition to, becoming an alcoholic as well.
Do you think that of the kids that you grew up with that might have done alcohol or drugs, do you think all of them faced mental health challenges as well? Was it something that sort of goes with it?
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of kids that I went to school with probably like me, had experienced these traumatic things and were self-medicating with, drugs and alcohol. And then, like I said, life is hard, it's difficult, and they just continue to go down that route.
So this is a big question, because now you're in the business of helping other people. Do you think that if somebody is dealing with substance use disorder, that they should also work on mental health issues at the same time? That it's easier to get past the substance use disorder if you deal with the core mental health issues?
100%. I think that mental health problems really do underline a lot of those addiction problems. I know a lot of people that I know and work with they don't just deal with the substance abuse, they also deal with the mental health problems. So I think in order to deal with the mental health problems, you have to deal with the substance abuse issues first. And once you can break away from those substance abuse issues, then you can really start taking care of your mental health. At least that was my experience anyway. Once I got sober, it was far more easier to deal with my mental health after that.
That's a great point. Well, we're going to take another short break. And Shayler would like to invite you back to share some final comments, some insights, and maybe some advice that'll help you deal with problems of substance use disorder and mental health. Stay tuned. We'll see you all after the break.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we're talking about the chances and choices that are a part of Shayler's story of recovery and inspiration. He's a survivor and a mentor. He puts his life and story out there for everyone to see and learn, and he is making a difference. Now, Shayler, you were telling me about something that happened to you, and you were in a dark place, actually, I think in jail, and you found inspiration in that really you can see happening in your life today. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So during my first bout with psychosis, like I mentioned earlier, I was dealing with some pretty profound delusions of grandeur, and they caused me to steal a car and crash into the back of a police car. So I was immediately arrested and brought to jail. But I remember being in jail and thinking and really believing that this is going to matter someday. Like, I'm going through these hard times now, but someday it's going to pay off and it's going to make a difference in somebody's life in some sort of way. And for the whole next year, I was in and out of mental health institutes. I spent more time in jail. My life was an absolute mess, but I just kept believing that one day my story was going to impact people.
And your mess, I mean, it's in your face because every neighbor, everybody in school, everybody knows what's going on in your life.
100%. And it's unfortunate because the stigma on mental health at AP is particularly bad just because of what happened to Coach Thomas. And for me, I was labeled as kind of the same thing, where people thought that I was dangerous and going to hurt people, which wasn't the case at all. But that was the community perception at the time.
Now let's do like the superstar mentor here. What if I could magically send you back in time to when you were a 14-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid, and you could actually talk to yourself and give yourself advice? What would you say?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I wouldn't go back and change anything about my life, but I would tell myself that, one day you're going to make a difference in people's lives. So just keep pushing forward. Just do your best. Just do as good as you can. And that's all I can ever ask for anybody, is just to do your best.
That's pretty good advice for anyone. Now, do you think that you still live in the area? Do you think that things are a little bit better for kids today? Is there better discussion about mental health? Is there better understanding how bad alcohol and drugs are? Do you think that kids are getting a better start today than maybe you had over 10 years ago?
I think there's definitely more awareness on mental health now, but I also believe that substance abuse is one thing that is rising among teenagers. I know when I listen to my sister talk about her experiences at school, uh, I think a lot more kids are using and becoming curious about doing drugs and alcohol.
What about the people that you're mentoring? Are they living in worlds where they see the same thing?
Yeah, yeah. I see some people in some pretty low places, and a lot of them don't see a way out. So I guess I guess you just got to take that first step forward, and that's really what I tell people. You just got to take one step forward, and then just keep looking
What
forward.
about friends that are watching this that maybe don't have significant mental health issues, aren't using any substances illegally or dangerously, but they live and work and go to school with people they know are having struggles? And I know the way you pointed out was there weren't people like that coming over to you and trying to help you.
Right.
Do you think it's a better world now that maybe watching a show like this that would make sense to tell them that, listen, if you see something like that happening, help that person, talk to that person, do anything? I mean, what advice would you give those people, the ones on the other side of you as you were struggling?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the best we can do is just talk about it. I think that's the way to really battle the stigma is just to talk about it. I know for me, I have friends that thought I was schizophrenic for the first 3 years after, my bipolar episode. So I was afraid to talk about it. But in talking about it, you make it okay for others to talk about it. And one thing that I see often is, just be kind to people because you really don't know what it is they're going through every day. I mean, people might come to work angry and frustrated, but they probably have a rough time at home or something along those lines. So just be kind to people.
So that's sort of your mantra, to be kind and compassionate and understanding, give people a safe place.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fantastic, man. Thank you so much for sharing your story and advice today. And thank you all for joining us today. Check out our website, ahealthyiowa.org, and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.